Uche, let's start with the big picture here. Why is the cybersecurity talent gap still growing, even after years of, sounding the alarm? What exactly is the reason for this persistent shortage?
Well, I think it's an issue of demand and supply, really. We're building way more demand for cybersecurity professionals than we are able to supply, and this is globally. According to ISC Squared, a very prominent certification body in the cybersecurity industry, the global cybersecurity workforce gap currently is standing around 4.5 million skills. And this is globally. Now, if you bring it down to Africa, we're looking at about 500,000. And it's not just a number, really. I think it's a vulnerability, it's an economic vulnerability, right? Now, there's a huge disconnect, and that's the fact that the threats we are dealing with today are way more complicated. They are way more, critical than the demands, the defenses that we have available, right? So what we're doing really in the industry is that we're playing catch up, right? The cybersecurity industry, the cyber world, the crime world, it's a big multi-billion-dollar industry, and really what we are doing in the defense industry is playing catch up, and that's why we have lots of security events going on every day. We have attacks, we have zero-day vulnerabilities popping up every now and then. I think we can look at it from that angle of demand and supply and say, hey, there's need for us to ramp up the supply of cybersecurity professionals. There's the need for us to ramp up the pipeline, the mechanisms with which we we produce cybersecurity experts. And this is not just being theoretical. This is practical cybersecurity skills in a way that people can actually come out and solve problems, right? A cybersecurity professional is that person who is able to solve problems. You have to be a critical thinker. You have to be a problem solver. So I think it's about the training system, the pipeline with which we're bringing out these individuals, and it's impacting the demand, the supply of technical skills, the supply of real cybersecurity skills, which organizations are looking for.
On the demand and supply part that you mentioned, which is quite interesting because while we're seeing layoffs across other parts of the tech industry, cybersecurity teams are still struggling rather, to fill roles. Now, how do we explain that mismatch?
That's because organizations are beginning to understand exactly what they need, right? There's a lot of unrealistic job expectations. So you see an organization, for instance, rolling out a job description that they want an entry-level cybersecurity person, and you're asking for 5 years experience. How on earth do you expect an entry-level person to already have 5 years experience? You're asking for certifications, as far as CISSP. Now, these are manager level certifications. So when organizations on their own are coming up with some of these unrealistic um, expectations from entry levels, it creates a misalignment. Now you're leaving an opening for people to lie to you. So you find people just providing us with resumes with 5 years experience, with tons of certifications that they really do not have. Now, when you put them on the job to do the job, your guess is as good as mine. So that's major. That's a major issue that is leading to layoffs. Organizations are no longer taking the fact that you have a lengthy resume or you have a bunch of certifications. If you get on the job and you're not able to do the job, they're going to show you the way out. So that's one of the reasons for layoffs. And then artificial intelligence has also come in and played a huge part in this. You see a lot of organizations are tilting towards AI agents, for faster processing and ease of doing work. And really, that's the reality for today. It's either you are using AI or someone who is using AI to take your job. That's reality. And then, so you see that some of the things, if you put them all together, you see that it's a reason for a lot of organizations to start thinking of laying off. And another reason, there are obvious economic issues. So many organizations today are struggling due to the global economic issues. So they are looking for ways of saving costs. And for most organizations, the easiest way is to look inwards and begin to rid of the the wrong hires and ensure that they have the right set of people to do the work.
Well, Uche, talking about certifications, which is, often key to breaking into certain fields, and of course that also applies to the cybersecurity field as well. For young professionals and those trying to switch careers, there's the issue of these certifications being affordable and also time consuming for them. What can be done to make these qualifications much more accessible for those set of people?
Yeah, so talking about certifications, personally, I see certifications as just an icing on the cake. I always say that certifications are not really true tests of knowledge. It just goes to a large extent, it just helps to cosmetically design your resume and makes it um, what I would use the word it brings your foot closer to the door, right? So when a hiring manager or recruiter is looking at the resume, and of course, a lot of them have to pass it through an ATS system, which automatically wheels off in the resumes that do not have the keywords that they're asking that they're looking for. Now, that's really where certification would help you, right? It just helps you go through the crowd and gives you the opportunity to be heard. But really, is it a true test of knowledge? Frankly, it's not. You have a lot of people joining organizations with a bunch of certifications that they have, and yet they do nothing with it because the certifications don't really put you in a practical environment. Most of the time, it's just these are subjective questions. So really, you're not learning any skill from these certifications. And then these certifications are very expensive, like you just mentioned. And then how do you expect someone who is barely able to afford 3 square meters to be able to come up with $700, $500, even as much as $1,000 in some cases for a certification. So I think one of the things that we can do is to provide scholarships, right? Schools, government, NGOs, private organizations can roll out scholarship programs, of course, for qualified candidates. There has to be a qualification process for you to be able to get those scholarships. And then, sponsorships as well from these organizations would also help. We're able to reduce that dependency on certifications as a criteria for hiring people. It's going to go a long way to helping ensure that there's no pressure on anyone to do certifications, but we are shifting the pressure to being able to do the job itself, learn the practical skills you need for the job.
Now, while we're on the topic of accessibility, right, we also need to talk about inclusion. How do we open the doors wider, engaging more women, people from underrepresented communities, and others who are often overlooked, to help build a more diverse cybersecurity workforce?
Absolutely. I think we need to start by changing the narrative. There's a lot of myths out there about how cybersecurity is only for those people with technical backgrounds, how it is too complex, it's too difficult, it's too masculine. It's only for people with computer science degrees. And I'll tell you the truth. For one, I had an experience way back in 2007, 2006. Despite having multiple certifications, I tried to get into the IT department of the bank as at that time, right? But I was refused because I did not have a degree in computer science. That was the only reason I was given by my HR. So, I think it's something that we need to look at from the perspective of, policy reforms, because we need people to be able to get into jobs after learning these skills. But a situation where um, there is that embargo on joining an IT industry, especially now I'm talking about Africa. In other parts of the world, some of these things are no longer applicable, right? There's no anyone can get any job as long as you can provide proof that you have the skill that they're looking for. But we still have these issues of degrees and certificates in Africa, which we have to deal with. So I think we need to start working on that narrative and we need to start talking to people directly. We need to come up with awareness programs from the grassroots, really. And I'm talking about going all the way down to secondary schools to begin to sensitize them provide some, security awareness education to them so that they begin to see cybersecurity as a profession that they would look forward to. They begin to understand what is involved in cybersecurity from a very early age. And this also applies to so many other, every other tech skill. And then, we can also talk about, some focused programs for women. I think there are a few of them already existing, which I know about. There are some great ladies coming up with programs, specifically for women, which I think is a really good call. It's going to help women understand the role they have to play. Across the world, it is a massive underrepresentation of women in the tech industry, especially in cybersecurity. I think we're looking at about less than 25%. And really, that's what we are trying to achieve with Curate HQ, an organization I co-founded with my partner, Gilbert Igwe, an AI data scientist, to train Nigerians and sub-Saharan English-speaking Africans with different tech skills, starting ranging from cybersecurity, DevOps, UI, UX, data analytics. And we are doing this affordably. Now, this is because we have seen the way tech is being trained, tech is being learned in general, and we've seen that there's a lot of improvements that we can make to it. Because we understand that an average Nigerian has no experience in learning tech. So we've created a curriculum that is crafted to take you from a zero level, from a beginner level, all the way to an advanced level.
Thank you so much, Uche Onyekwe, cybersecurity specialist, for joining us on Tech Trends. It was such an insightful conversation with you.
Thank you very much for having me.